adverbs. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So one of the most important from your adverbs was like, see, you say, okay, if the people around, let me go there. Yeah. If the people around you always tell you yes and never no, they they don't truly care about you.
Yes, that's true. I I feel strongly about that. Is like, and this goes for, and I think there's another one downstream about clients telling clients no. Is something that if you always say yes to a client and never push back, then you're just an order taker, right? And you'll get what they want you to, that they get what they think they want, not what they need. And that's the reason why they hired you in the first place. And, it, when I say, uh, you know, people that always tell you yes and never no, they're not, in a personal relationship, if you never push back and say no or have any boundaries, then you're just getting walked over all the time. And that's, I've experienced that in my life.
Mm,
And I try to apply that to how I work. When I mentioned the work-life balance before, it's
mm,
my work-life balance is an acknowledgement. My efforts to keep my work-life
mm,
balance is an acknowledgement that I do my best work when I have time to do it, and that
mm,
means I have to say no to things. And to me, that it makes me I can be more consistent by putting those boundaries
mm,
in place. And
mm,
it's easy for, and I see this a lot with younger folks doing
mm,
development work, is like they burn the midnight oil. They're 100%
mm,
available 24/7. And I said, I've been there, done that. That's not me. I don't
mm,
do my best work at 2 o'clock in the morning. If
mm,
you know, I can go back and look at stuff that I've done when I'm stressed out, and I'm like, this is the most terrible stuff I've ever written.
mm,
And it comes back to boundaries in your life. And I think
mm,
it's a worthwhile exercise to go through and
mm,
say, when am I at my best, and what scenario, and what are the parameters of that, and saying politely, it's like, sorry,
mhm,
I can't do that.
mm. Yeah.
uh,
For me, yeah. For me, I took it in a different perspective. Okay,
mm,
where like recently also I was having a conversation with my brother, elder brother, and he's 10 years elder than me, and he was like, "You need to believe me. You need to see what I'm doing, and you should not question." I said, "I'm going to question you.
yeah,
This is what I am, and it's not always. It will be like for me, like whatever you say, it will be yes. If I
yeah,
feel something that I have to say, then I'm definitely going to say no." Okay,
yeah.
so I was taking that point, and the other one with the cars. Okay, so this was the fast lane car. The
Oh,
fast
yes,
lane is never faster during rush hour.
yes.
And it is, generally speaking, people who treat it that way are the ones that make it worse.
Yeah. That's a double meaning one. That's
Mm,
20 plus years of commuting in traffic in
mm,
Kansas City. uh, the wrecks are always in the fast lane, and that's because
mm,
everybody tries to drive fast in the fast
mm,
lane during rush hour, which doesn't
mm.
work. But
Number, yeah.
the double meaning to that is also, it's like when you're in a rush, you tend to make mistakes, and sometimes, and one of the other one of the other things that didn't make the Dadverbs cut is that sometimes the fastest lane is the one that everybody's trying to get out of.
Mhm.
you know
Yeah, yeah,
um,
true. Both in not only in terms of car, but in life also.
yeah,
Like if you are trying to be in a race, then you will not be comfortable being in that race, right?
yeah,
And a lot of casualties will definitely going to happen if you are there in that race.
yeah.
Uh,
there
eh,
there's another
Now
one
I
in
am.
there. There's one more in there, the walk to the finish line, and that was inspired by one my first boss.
Mhm.
And he always said that you don't want to end on you don't want to end frantically, and that's something that he always did when we were doing projects. Is like we need to plan to have this rollout be no big deal. And I've always
Mhm.
kind of taken that to heart too. It's like there's nothing more satisfying than deploying something without any fanfare and not any stress,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot of preparation to do something like that. It's not easy, but similar to that.
So there was another one. Obviously, there. See, I was basically actually, got too very hooked with this all this what you have written here. Not with
Yeah,
your basically with your GitHub. I'll say I
yeah,
can go there later, but
sure.
I was for maximum time focusing here.
Yeah,
Okay, and in this technological technology and this internet, you said okay. If you wouldn't say it or do it to someone in person, don't post it on social media.
yes, yeah. I think a lot of the trouble and discord that we have in our world would be minimized if people would just have the restraint to
Mm,
that restraint, because there's you know I
mm,
question motives of people that will say things that they wouldn't say to somebody in person, because to me that there's some other agenda going on when that happens.
true.
And
Yeah.
I think there's a false sense of security that we have being behind the keyboard,
Mm,
and being able to broadcast a broad message. It
mm,
really isn't always a true representation of who we really are as a person. And I also think the same thing about, and I think I have a couple other dadverbs about using richer forms of communication. It's like people give me a hard time about having my video on all the time. I'm like, well, if I'm not paying attention, I want you to see with my actions that I'm
mm.
not paying attention, not just assume that I'm not paying attention. And the flip side of that is like, I want to see people's videos so that I know people are paying attention. It's like it's easy to just turn your
Mm,
video off and not pay attention. I mean, how many
mm,
times have you been
mm,
on a call where they say, "Oh, sorry, what was the question again? I was multitasking."
mm.
To me, that just says you weren't paying attention, and why are we having this meeting again? It's like
Yeah.
uh, you know,
I can.
we
Yeah. I can actually. I'm not being. Trying to. What to say? Chest thump myself. Okay. I have a huge respect for you. And I was initially very afraid of you in the how to
mm,
also to ping you or say something. Okay, because that respect that you have already earned, even for Greek, I always be like if I'm writing even something to Greek, I have to think 10 times before writing to
yeah,
him. That is based on not on the person, like he's already a very the
yeah,
respected
yeah,
person. So uh, to get the reply, you have to be very 100% sure what you're writing.
right,
So that
right,
happened with you. So what I'm saying, but there's a lot of interconnection with you and me in the process of thinking. Like
yeah,
this one, which I just said, if you wouldn't say it, okay, then do not post in social media. So what I feel like, I see all the hidden agendas, by the
hmm,
way, and I'm
yeah,
very blunt and vocal about it.
hmm,
And if somebody try to they think that Sasi, if they to be very frank, okay, let me this is a candid, so let me can be candid. There are few people who try to say that Sasi, I want to come here and have a conversation.
uh-huh,
They have to think 10 times 10 times before coming to this conversation, because they will
mhm,
be very badly exposed
yeah, yeah, yeah,
with their intention. So
yeah,
uh, and when I speak, I speak without any strategy in mind, and I
sure,
speak like what you are saying on based on that, it is the conversation is going on, right?
yeah,
So if you have really prepared saying that okay, I'm going to give this answer, so she is not going to take that answer. You're going to go
mhm.
very different tangential point where you will be like, oh, I didn't prepare for this. So they have
Yeah,
to be very
yeah,
careful mm, coming to this conversation. Okay. So Adam, you know let me ask you this question. Okay. So, you have this long history, okay, of your career. I was basically counting your experience is more than 25 years
Mm.
in this industry now, right? Now, in this 25 years of career, okay, do you have any regrets?
Sure I do. Yeah. Um, and I was actually thinking about a lot of the failures and pain that I've had have
Mm-hmm.
been around not around the technology, and those regrets that I have are around people and relationships and and mostly working relationships and also some client relationships as well. And I still don't process some of that very well.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been part of some dysfunction in various levels, both with clients and with coworkers, and um, I have regrets about those, just like I have about those same kind of that relationship discord in my own
Mm-hmm.
personal life. I want to know how to navigate that stuff better and how to be a more positive person when it comes to that kind of thing. And I feel like I have a lot of room to grow in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's and regrets about solutions I've done. I have several that I that I wish I could do again. But and a lot of them have to do with uh, over engineering, like I mentioned before. Making it too complicated, not spending the time understanding the goal, and then providing the solution that
Mm-hmm.
the goal, not just building something that I think should accomplish the goal. And really, the sign, in my view, the sign of maturity in this kind of work is being able to make things that scale,
Mm-hmm.
and are efficient. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
hard that to me is the hardest part of
Hardest
those,
part.
because I have a long list of things
Mm-hmm.
that were cool in theory, or
Mm-hmm.
cool with a small data set, or um, plausible in design, and this didn't play out, and ended up being big messes. And a lot of it has to do with the limitations of Marketing Cloud, and being able to know when to steer people away from trying to do certain things in Marketing Cloud. And that's where that simplicity and those boundaries come into play, is like being able to say that this isn't I don't recommend this, and here's something else that you should consider strongly. And
Mm-hmm.
those are all lessons built out
Yeah.
of doing it wrong. Doing it
Actually,
wrong, and
yeah.
feeling the regrets of having to do that. So yeah.
Actually, I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you. It's like, uh, if I have to look back, right? If I have to look back, I have told in with Shibu also that I was very aggressive person. Like,
Mm,
that's what I call it, programming syndrome, or they call it something else. I have to
yeah.
find out the definition, but the theory and practical is totally different.
Mm,
And uh, you know, just trying to please the people, just trying to say that, okay, yeah, this can be done this way, but which I disagree most of the things that is implemented,
hmm
and
hmm
which are not able to explain it properly to the
mm,
people, saying that what's going inside our brain, like
right.
this is. And we all, for me, it happens like I already know the future of that project, saying
Right.
that
Yes.
is going to crack, right? And if you're not agreeing to, then sometimes I say, now it's up to you. Now I have tried my best to convince you people, and if you
Yes.
are not able to understood, now it's going to, and
Yeah.
I have seen happening that, it's I have seen happening it. And uh, now, what now I realize, okay, now at this point where I am, what I feel like, I can basically guide the juniors properly, rather
hmm
than the management people who I failed to convince what I was trying to say, but I am
Yes.
able to convey that to my juniors. And
Mm,
when my juniors started appreciating me, I feel like now I am done. Now I am
mm,
convinced with myself that I was able to implement it, right?
right.
Uh,
Yes.
not those who people, the so-called technique architects, so-called
Right.
architects, where they think that mm, they are very good in technicality, right?
Hmm.
I basically try to bring them on a challenge. Come and let's have a discussion on technical. If you want to be purely technical, let be pure technical,
Hmm.
right? So that way, yeah, definitely. With my journey, there was a lot of hurdles initially. I
Hmm.
Because I was more of a people call me aggressive. I was logical actually in my inner self, right?
Mm,
And that logical sense, not very people got convinced. Okay.
right. Well, yeah. So having conviction about the best practice is difficult to wield because it's like being a parent.
Mm.
Your kids get to a certain age, and you have to let go and let them decide that what you've taught them is the right thing or
Mm.
not. And
Yeah,
I've experienced that, and that's a very frustrating thing. It's letting go, though.
letting
and
go. Yeah.
and how do you have conviction and without some kind of action associated
Mm.
with it? And that's a really difficult scenario to be in my experience is like, because sometimes you've got to let people experience the pain themselves. It reminded me of one of my computer science professors. He used to work at Bell Labs in the heyday of Bell Labs, and he was just this brilliant guy. And he gave us an assignment to work on as a group project, and it was in assembly language, and it was writing a assembly language program that does long division.
Mm.
And the group of us studied and tried to figure it out for a week. And his office was right off the computer lab. His office was right by the computer lab, and
Yeah.
we begged and pleaded with him just to give us some hints about it,
Mm.
because like, if you really want us to learn something, why don't you give us
Mm.
some hints on it? And he never did. And I always
Mm.
was angry at him for like not helping us. Like, how could you let
Mm.
us struggle like this? You see
Mm.
all of us struggling with this.
Mm.
Nobody's figured this out. And he just kind of laughed and smiled at us. We're like, what a jerk. What a jerk. But then somebody realized, and I can't remember how it happened, but somebody realized that, what division is. It's multiple subtraction.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait a second, long division is multiple subtraction? And we're like, and everybody's just like, oh, but it was the benefit.
Mm.
Now I look back on that professor, and was he smug? Was he a jerk for not showing us? Absolutely not. We worked together and figured it out on our own,
Mm.
without any help, without any internet.
Yeah.
We didn't have smartphones then.
But
you know
yeah, we didn't have chat
it's like,
GPT.
right. But it's that he had the conviction that the lesson that he was
Mm.
trying to teach and the struggle that we were going through was not going to kill us, but it was going to make
Yeah.
us appreciate the solution and arriving at the solution. Depriving Answering our questions would have deprived us the struggle
Yeah.
of learning it. And
Mm.
you know that's hard to it's hard to stay composed when you know the answer, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
I can't, like Stack Exchange, I can answer
Mm.
those questions, but if people don't show that they are
Mm.
actually struggling with it, like they don't show their
Oh.
work, they just want the answer,
Mm.
etc. I think back to that professor, and I'm like,
Mm.
I know the
Yeah.
answer and I could just write it out right here, but
Mm.
how can I lead this person down the path of enjoying figuring it out for the benefits of figuring it out, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's hard because I bite my tongue and I'm like, don't
Yeah.
do it that way, it's like, and
Uh,
it's the same
you,
thing with
you-
my kids. Same thing with my kids. It's like,
yeah.
you could you
You,
you think you know what you're talking about, but actually you don't.
uh,
It's like stuff like that it's just.
you know, you are making me an adrenaline rush with what you're saying. Okay. And if you have observed me in how to, when somebody is asking a question and replying it, okay,
Hmm.
I intentionally give them like trial and error. Okay.
Yeah.
I say, okay, show me what you have written. And I
Yeah.
say, when I see the written, I don't give them proper answer. I say, "Have you tried this? Try this one." And I'm like, "Try it, have the pain, enjoy it."
Yeah, right.
And
Yes.
sometimes, just yesterday, if you go to yesterday's question and answer, there
Mhm.
was someone. I don't know if I have to say this, but it was about attach file question. So I said,
Mm.
post the code that you have written. I said, then try this, or you can do, or love, but
Yeah.
Greek came in there, and he gave a
Yeah.
I said, like, no, the guru has there, so I
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
So I don't like giving direct answers. If first, I am very bad in writing what I have to write, and I'm thinking technically. Okay,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel like I have come to this realization. Okay, that what I am going to write, 90% of people will not understand what I'm saying.
Mm.
Okay, so uh, and I've learned from Gina that the way she has learned the way to be very, uh, like she will treat herself like she doesn't know, and she's just playing around with people. But though she's that technical,
Mm.
then I feel like I don't know when I'll achieve that position of basically downplaying and saying that just having a fun and giving the answer.
Uh-huh.
That position, I don't know when I'll get that maturity, right? And the
Right.
other point that what I thought was, when somebody like when I'm teaching someone, there are a lot of people who admire me, and when they say, "Sasi, I want to become like you," I say, "Don't become like me. This is not a very good position to be in.
Yeah.
Not everybody will like Sasi,
Yeah.